Our friend Charlie Gorecki is here from the Energy and Environmental Research Center at UND at the Ham Institute in Oklahoma City, along with us on the Powering AI Summit. Charlie, what's your takeaway so far from this event?
We need a lot more power to power AI, and America really needs to lead the AI arms race, if you will. That's, I think, the big takeaway I've seen so far.
How to do that, what it looks like to get there, seems to be, at least from what we heard from the cabinet officials, administrator of the EPA, Ag, Energy Department, Interior Department, is we hear you, let's go, right?
Right. I think the big thing, it said a little bit last night, especially with Secretary Burgum, is energy addition. We need more power and all kinds of different power to manage this. Nuclear has been talked about today. CCS on traditional fossil fuel plants has been talked about today. Renewables, geothermal. So we just need more power. Lots of power growth will be happening. So I think there's a lot of opportunity over the next period of time to be determined to really advance energy development of all types.
EERC would sort of be agnostic in the space of we do research and our customers benefit from that research, right?
Absolutely.
And so what advice would you have? You know, you had elected leaders up there, that are serving in an administration nominated by the Trump administration, and you also had industry folks, and they were sort of asking each other back and forth, hey, tell us what you need, what can we do? How would you answer that question?
Wow, well, I think one of the lowest hanging fruit long-term needs is, I'm a big advocate of CCS, carbon capture, utilization and storage, capturing that carbon dioxide from our point source traditional fossil fuel power plants and putting it to work to produce oil that we would otherwise not be able to produce. And then having that oil be lower carbon intensity. All of the forecasts, EIA, others, all show a continued use of fossil fuel resources, continued use of nuclear, and a continued actual addition of sources, addition of renewables, addition of all of the above. It's not going to be which one do we need to use, we're going to need to use all of them. So how do we continue to produce fossil fuel power, add renewables, battery storage, nuclear, and then the liquid hydrocarbons in the oil and gas space? We need those, and the best way to get them out is to maximize the resources that we've already found, putting something like carbon dioxide to work.
And when we talk about AI and what that would look like and the amount of data centers that you need to do all that, you told me something today I don't know that I thought of before, that that's more carbon.
Right.
I mean, that ultimately will produce more carbon, so you still need more solutions there, right?
Absolutely, yeah. If you're using natural gas power to manage your data center, whether now or sometime in the future, you'll likely need to manage that carbon as well. Highly probable. And another source to be able to capture and put to work and enhance oil recovery is an example. However, if they're not located in the right places, too far away from oil and gas, that may increase the costs. And the other thing is carbon dioxide capture on a gas plant is more expensive per ton than it is on a coal plant. So, and the reason is simple, it's all about concentration. So in a coal plant you have the highest concentration, in the air you have the lowest concentration. And so your price, in ethanol you have a very high concentration. So in an ethanol plant, it's almost pure CO2, your cost per ton of capture very low. In the air, it's 420 parts per million. So that cost is extraordinarily high. And coal plant is about 10 to 13%. So it's that a lot of CO2 produced and a lower cost to produce.
A lot of the barriers to this are political. And it seems, one crowd is anti-fossil fuels. Carbon's bad, put it in the ground. Just, take that evil carbon out of the air and put it in the ground, right? Other side of it says, that's crazy talk. It's awful. Everything else. So they argue on the other side. You got really the enviros, if you will, and the others that think all that's poppycock. How do you really what you're talking about? Kind of should satisfy both in one way or another, shouldn't it?
That's the aim. I mean, let's be in the middle. Have a win-win. So we're going to produce power at low cost, lower cost, capturing the carbon dioxide, storing it in the ground, simultaneously producing a lower carbon intensity oil and energy. So definitely that win-win. So you don't want carbon emissions, we can handle that. You want to continue to have cheap, reliable power, we can handle that. Of course, carbon capture does cost something, but fund it in part, at least, by the production of oil that you would otherwise not be able to produce.
Explain to me, for our audience, what it takes to do what you're explaining in the way of capital. That, you know, these are big ideas and you got to find the right place and the right time and all those things have to come together. But I mean, you're talking about solutions that require enormous amounts of capital, right?
That's absolutely correct. And it's on both the part of the capture of carbon dioxide. So if you're a coal-fired power plant, for example, you're talking billions of dollars, depending on the size of your capture plant, in CapEx to do that capture, plus operating the capture plant costs a lot of money per year. And then on the part of the oil and gas guys, from the infrastructure they have to put in place, it's potentially pipelines from the source to the place where you're going to inject and produce the oil. And then you need a recycling facility, which is hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe $1 billion, depending on the size. So you've got a big capital investment on both the capture and the user side. And that's all then funded off of oil revenue and tax credits that we have in place today.
Our current tax policy incentivizes the sequestration versus the enhanced oil recovery, mainly because of political reasons in the past administration. But talk about the kind of certainty that it needs to unlock the capital you're talking about in the way of government policy and what you see coming out of this administration.
The tax credit, as you pointed out perfectly, is $85 a ton for storage without enhanced oil recovery, dedicated storage we call it, and $60 a ton associated storage. So that's a $25 per ton delta, and that has pushed the projects towards dedicated storage. Again, there's nothing inherently wrong about that, but if that was at parity, which is the push right now, so that the tax credit was the same between enhanced oil recovery and just dedicated storage, you probably see a lot of those projects shift, at least considering enhanced oil recovery as a part of the mechanism. And the part that keeps getting missed or misstated by people, sometimes intentionally I believe, is that CO2 for enhanced oil recovery doesn't store the CO2 or doesn't store all of it, when in fact it does. So these are closed loop systems, and every molecule of CO2 that you buy, most of the time bought as an oil producer, is ultimately stored. Parts of it come back up with your oil and water, you separate out the oil, you sell it, you inject the water, and then you take and re-inject the carbon dioxide to keep using it. So it's a closed loop system where all that CO2 is stored. There's no difference from a CO2 molecule perspective whether it's stored in an oil reservoir or a saline formation. So this is part of the argument, of course, for that parity, not to mention the fact that we spur economies with additional oil production.
Fascinating. Glad you were here. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.